Boy just gave the airplane model a gentle push, but to his amazement, the little plane seemed to come to life. It started moving forward slowly, pushing a bucket on the ground as it went. The boy instantly realized that the little airplane had come back to life. To test his suspicions, he waited until the babysitter wasn't looking, then brought over a ladder. He tied the small plane to himself and climbed up to the roof, fantasizing that the little airplane could take him soaring through the sky. Fortunately, his mom caught him just in time, but the small plane slipped and fell to the ground in the process. What they didn't know was that danger was quietly approaching. Back inside the house, his mother sternly scolded the boy for his behavior and banned him from ever touching that little airplane again. She threw the small plane into the storage room and locked the door tight. No matter how much the boy pleaded with his mom, she refused to bring it back out. However, just as mother and son were arguing heatedly, something strange happened. The little airplane suddenly burst in through the window and started crashing around the room. When his mom saw this, she grabbed a mop, planning to knock it down. But this action only angered the small plane. The next second, the airplane's body began glowing with a red light. This scene instantly terrified his mother, who screamed in fright. The boy also hugged his mom tightly out of fear. Strangely though, the little plane's anger began to gradually fade away. Since his mother had been scared by what just happened, she had no choice but to allow the boy to take the small plane back to his room. Afterwards, his mom was still shaken by the experience, so she called her friend Mike and told him about the strange incident that had just occurred. To figure out the mystery of the small airplane, they quietly took the plane away while the boy was fast asleep that night, carefully examining every detail. Strangely enough, from the outside, there didn't seem to be any hidden switches on the small plane at all. Mike didn't buy it and took out a small knife to scrape the plane's body. To his surprise, the airplane shell was as hard as rock. Even the sharp knife left no marks when scraped across it. Realizing something was off about this plane, Mike quickly brought it back to the lab, planning to study the airplane carefully. However, what they never expected was that after a systematic scan, the small plane's internal structure contained no electronic components whatsoever. This left them puzzled. To test their suspicions, they placed the small plane under a hydraulic press, turned on the switch, and brought it crashing down heavily on the airplane. What was truly astonishing was that after the test, the small plane was not only completely undamaged, but didn't even have the slightest scratch. Meanwhile, the boy had learned that the small airplane had been taken away. To rescue the small plane, he broke into the laboratory in the dead of night, while Mike was on a phone call with someone else. He quietly took the small airplane and hid. He had planned to find a chance to slip out later, but after Mike finished his call, he immediately noticed the small plane was missing. Seeing what looked like someone hiding behind a cabinet, he instantly realized it was the boy who had come to steal the plane. Just as he was about to approach and question him, the cabinet nearby suddenly started shaking violently and crashed toward him. During this chaos, the boy took off running toward the exit, but Mike had already sounded the alarm. Where could he possibly run to? Soon the entire base went into lockdown mode. Fortunately, the boy had his father's work badge. Using the badge, he managed to run all the way to the rooftop of the experimental base. At that moment, he made a crazy decision. He tied the small airplane to himself and climbed toward the highest point of the base's rooftop. Then, at that very moment, something miraculous happened. The small airplane actually lifted off and began flying, carrying the boy with it.